and welcome everybody to the final of our Tech Talks, Framlingham College Tech Talks, where we're exploring opportunities for your future in the technology sector. Today we're joined by Christina Stevenson, who works in cybersecurity. So we're going to hear some very interesting things about her career and what she does. We've got our panel here today that are looking forward to asking some questions. So first of all, welcome, Christina.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the ability to come and chat to you all today.
Thank you, and it's wonderful. You're our last guest speaker in this series. We've highlighted, particularly focused on women in technology roles, and it's really interesting, an area in which there is still a big gender gap. So we're hoping that through the sort of inspirational stories that we've heard, that we're doing our small bit to kind of change that in the future. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to you, Christina, to tell us all about you.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you all about me, as exciting or unexciting as it may be. So I have always worked or been interested in technology. My mother called me a very nosy person from a very young age, so that naturally lent itself into working in technology. So all the way through school, I studied, information technology. That then transferred itself into A levels, and then I went on to university to study forensic computing, which was a real blend of what am I good at, technology and IT, and what do I like, being nosy, forensic computing, all in one. That was a kind of a 3 or 4 year degree that allowed me to really explore the ins and outs of a real different vast elements. So it covered off business, it covered off law, and it covered off programming and mobile computing as well. So it was a really interesting kind of educational path, but a pretty standard, I would say, educational path. There's no quirky stories other than some of the A-level choices, including psychology and PE, just to get out and about. When I left university, I very much was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do now? I finished all the education. Do I do a master's? Do I stay and try and get a job? And I was working and living in London at the time when I graduated. So I ended up joining a apprenticeship scheme with a company called Capita. So they had a kind of like graduate scheme in which they trained you up in a specific topic or a specific area, and then you became a consultant on customer sites. So as a trained and educated individual. So I actually started out in software testing, which I did for about 8 months. It was a very interesting and I guess kind of repetitive job. So if you're someone who really likes to hone in and focus on completing the same task and doing it well, and then just in tweaking and enhancing little bits, software testing was good. Also allowed me to put into practice what I'd learned, all the way through school and A levels and then university. But for me, I was like, okay, this is great, and it's challenging enough, but it doesn't help me really with my nosiness. It doesn't help me really go, okay, well, what else? I like to speak to people, and in software testing, you only really speak to your developers, if they speak to you, that is. And then, so I was actually headhunted within the organisation to go, oh, Christina, you talk a lot, and you like to talk a lot. Have you thought about moving into quality assurance? It was never really something that I explored because I was dead set on staying in technology and pure technology. So I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a go. And for 6 months, I did a secondment within the organisation. And one of the things that was really beneficial about the first company that I worked at on a customer site was they were quite a big company. So once you got your foot in the door, it was very easy to kind of, figure out what you wanted to do and where you wanted to go in a real life business situation. So I moved over, went into quality assurance, created a load of kind of mandates, policies, procedures, all the stuff that I didn't realize at the time was going to take me through the entire career that I have. I then, during that career in quality assurance, was speaking to so many people in the organisation, and I ended up speaking to a chief information security officer, so a CISO. and had a chat about, me, what I'm interested in and what I do. And I said, oh, hey, yeah, I've got a degree in forensic computing. And he was like, what are you doing over there? Get over to my security team. So again, traversed within the same organization over to the security team, and then haven't looked back since. When I first set out in the career path, I didn't really know about cybersecurity as a kind of function. I mean, it was in 2013, 2012. So it still really wasn't this big visual thing that everyone kind of talked about. They were normally teams, well, my team certainly was. We were like squirreled away kind of in the corner of the IT office, and nobody really spoke to us, and really, never really spoke to them either until something went wrong. So when I joined the team, one of the biggest things that I do in every team I join is to go in and just start speaking to people, finding out, what are your ailments? What are your issues? What can we help you with? How can we support the implementation of X, Y, and Z, and make sure that when we're doing so, it's secure. So I was security analyst and an architect. I worked on so many incredible projects. We designed the ticketing system for the Oyster card. We designed all of the transportation, not just in London, but the New York Met, the Opal card in Sydney, more and to enhance it as well. So we were the company responsible for the implementation of debit and credit card readers as well. So you could use them on TfL and the bus. And that was exciting projects. I also worked alongside military defence, mission solutions, and enhancing some of the tactical strategies with that. So some really, really interesting stuff that I could get my teeth stuck into, and which, quenched my thirst for nosiness knowledge. So that was down in London, that was down in Surrey. I then got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to settle down a little bit more. I need to go buy a house. I need to do some adult things for a little bit. So I moved back up to the Midlands, and in doing so, when I relocated, kind of found myself at a little bit of a loss again. I was like, oh gosh, what do I do? Do I carry on in security because I love it, or do I try something else? Because I was still, at the time, I think I was about 25. So I was like, okay, well, I've still got plenty of choices. I don't need to be dead set in certain careers. So I reached out to some of the mentors that I had in the previous company, and I was like, what do you think I should do? How should I progress? And they said, well, why don't you try the same thing you did before? Get your foot into the door at a role that's, covers a little bit of everything, and then you can decide from there what you want to specialize in. So I went and became a risk manager. Realized that risk management was very similar to software testing and quality assurance, and I was like, it's okay, it's just not really it's not really my kind of cup of tea. And then the same thing happened again. A CISO found me, and he was like, what are you doing over there? You do forensics, get over here. And then became an information security manager, and again found myself on the path of security. So it's been a little bit, no matter how hard I try, I keep getting dragged into the security way. I then became a chief information security officer myself at the age of 28, and which was kind of unheard of. It's a very much a stereotypical, you have to be super experienced and you have to have loads of connections within an organization. And I was a CISO at a major financial institute as well. So we did a lot of settlements and clearing and a lot of tough discussions. I helped the organization a digital transformation and then a migration as well onto cloud infrastructure. So really challenging and difficult kind of conversations were had, because often with security, there's a real difference in balance between service and security, and it's trying to maintain that, we need to be secure, but we also need to be able to operate. So my job was really to try and negotiate between the two. And then I was finally headhunted into this role. And this is probably, well, I can say it because I'm here, probably one of the most favorite roles that I've had. This organization is incredible. I am the only female director within the UK and US region. I lead a team of really strong, competent consultants. We're actually currently sitting at around 60% women as well. So I'm a real advocate for, strong female role models in organizations. Happened this year was I won an award for a GRC Ambassador of the Year in the Women in GRC Awards. And And for some of the schemes that I've implemented, we're looking at women in cyber within the organisation and trying to build some of those initiatives out, apprenticeship schemes, consultancy, buddying and mentoring and guidance. And one of my favorite things to do is to bring in resources into an organization that have never known about security before, which is similar to me. I didn't know what the role is, what it did. And then as a result, train them up and get them up and running. And that's pretty much my career path.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Christina. That's so really interesting. It's interesting that you keep coming back to security.
No matter how hard I try.
Yeah. So, but I think it also highlights the massive amount of opportunities there are in security. It's an area where there is a shortage across, global shortage of experts. So when a company has somebody that has a degree in forensic computing, they are highly sought after.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a real challenge as well with trying to not just get the talent but retain the talent. I think that's one thing that I tend to find with some of the hires is to get them in and to put them in the right position, because it is such a vast topic to go, hey, there is so much that we can find that will suit what you want to do. So let's try and test a few things and find where your passion is so that we actually get to keep you in the role.
Absolutely, yeah. So that is one thing, retaining your experts and so on. So I'll hand over now to our students for some questions.
Sure.
Hi, my name's Judah Hick. I'm a year 12 here, and I would like to. Well, you've obviously been in many different roles throughout your career. So, what's your favorite thing about your current role?
Oh, good question. I think the ability to lead and inspire, and I know it sounds really cheesy, but I am really in a fortunate position that what I do influences the next kind of generation of talent. And so there's a bit of pressure to make sure I get it right. But I think the ability to go, here's everything that I tried and went right, and here's everything that I tried and went wrong. Let me help you to succeed in what you want to do. And so I think the ability that I can kind of pick whoever and whatever I want within a leadership role and go, I think you'd be a great resource because you've got the right attitude or you've got the right competencies, and it's not always about skill set, especially in, a vast industry like security. If you've got the right attitude, we can definitely enhance whatever technical skills and capabilities you need, as long as you're willing to learn. So I think my favorite thing, and getting the right people in.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thanks. My name is Julius, and I'm a year 12 student as well. And you already talked about skills and attitude. And what do you think are the most important skills to start a career in cybersecurity?
Most important skills? Ooh, nosiness. And I keep saying it because that's what worked for me. A real thirst and a passion for learning. Security is such an ever-evolving landscape of information, and you can really drink from the fire hydrant, with security. So if you're passionate and you want to learn, there's so much out there in which you can learn. So I would say your ability to be nosy is probably one of the greatest skills, because there's nothing that you cannot be taught, if you have the right attitude.
Oh, thank you very much. And I have another question. What do you think are the changes we see in the near future in cybersecurity, especially when everything's moving to the cloud?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we're really seeing a lot of step change in is around business resiliency. So a lot of technology is being lifted and shifted and migrated and moved because it's cheaper, it's quicker, it's more accessible, and it's automated, and everything's like, yeah, great, let's move there. But one of the things that I think that businesses, especially during the pandemic, are now looking at is, oh, actually, okay, we've put these great snazzy systems in place, but how do you make sure that we can keep them going and keep and maintain them? And more and more data is being collected every single day. So how do you make sure that that's resilient? Because if our systems go down, so does our business and so does our company. So one of the step changes that we're seeing quite a lot of is technology advancing at such a rate. Are we ready and are we prepared to evolve with it as an organization or as a company? So I think one of the biggest step changes is it's kind of like a full circle. It's kind of going back to okay, how do you make sure that an outage in the event of people and knowledge loss, or information retention? So I think that's where a lot of organisations are starting to focus on that resiliency.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Hi, my name's Frankie, and I'd like to ask, what is a typical workday like for you?
Typical workday: wake up, get a coffee. So yeah, I normally get up pretty early. I'd say probably about 6 o'clock in the morning, which for some people is the start of the middle of their day. But I like to get up at a reasonable time, have a good night's sleep before, have a coffee, come into the office. As a director, one of the things that I do is just check what I've got on for the day. So who else is in the office with me? Who else is remote? Is there any people leadership things I need to do? And then I have a look at my threat landscape. So I have a number of different threat feeds that I get in. So I will check and see, is there anything that I need to know about from a consultancy perspective to go, what's happened in the news today? Is there anything that we need to be aware of from our security operations center that I need to then advise the team on? Hey, when you're speaking to your customers and your clients, this is what you need to be telling them, and this is what you need to be aware of. And that normally takes me up to about lunchtime. So half of my day is just prep for the rest of the day. And then from about 12 onwards, because we're a global organization, so I tend to work UK, US, and Australian times. It's just meetings, discussions, meeting with clients, helping them through whatever they want to do. So we do a lot of what we call virtual CISO roles. So it's effectively for smaller companies that don't have that dedicated security function. They hire us. So I will go in and help them with their strategy and say, hey, this is where we need to be moving to, this is how we're going to do it, and this is our rough timeline. So I just kind of check in and see how we're getting along, or I'll devise strategies, do a bit of sales as well, a bit of scoping, and then, just general business stuff, and then make sure that everyone's up to date. And then I probably log off at about 10 o'clock. Maybe I'd say 9, 10 o'clock, in between traveling, chit chat, and whatnot. But yeah, typical days, just threat research and communication and advice.
Thank you.
Thanks. I have another question. What do you think are the opportunities and work conditions in the general cybersecurity industry?
Oh, good question. I think they are increasing so much every single day. I think the remote workforce means that we actually have a bit of a global reach now with some of the opportunities. So before, kind of pre-COVID, there was always you had to kind of have boots on the ground. There was a really kind of prehistoric mentality of you're only effective if you were in a seat 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And I think one of the biggest changes is actually you can be working in a UK office, but actually be living in Switzerland, and as long as it's a secure connection in and you're competent and able enough, you can work wherever. So we're seeing quite a lot of opportunities with that kind of remote working, giving us a bigger resource pool. So that's a positive change, but it also then means that there's more of a competitive change as well. So some of the opportunities with security is it's not just pure technology. And I think that's one of the stigmas that I've tried to break down, in that, you're a young female director, what do you know about technology? And that's one of the biggest challenges that I guess I had to face, to go, actually, no, yes, I might be young. Yes, I might be a woman in technology, but actually, here's everything that I can know and I can help with. And, they only say it once to me. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, you do know what you're talking about. So I think opportunities are vast. There doesn't need to be technology. It doesn't need to be, hard coder, programmer. The older days of, cybersecurity experts are sat in their mum's basement with a hoodie up in the dark. That's just not the case. There are consultants like our organization that are front facing, chatty resources that help support strategies, as well as, we have security penetration testers here as well that are your stereotypical tech guys. We have training and education guys. We have cloud integration and engineering guys. So opportunities are endless, in answer to your question.
Thanks very much. And I would also be interested in what skills you think could students start to learn if they definitely want to do something in cybersecurity?
Absolutely. So there's so many free resources online. And like I said, drinking from the fire hydrant is a bit difficult to know which one to drink from. Confirmation. I think one of the biggest skills is understanding general technology. You will need to understand what is a computer, how does it work, how does it switch on, but when I was at school, we had to learn because it wasn't, we had one computer in the corner of our living room that, was with connection. Whereas now you've got everything's so accessible. But I think that understanding of how things communicate in general technology is really important. I would say, depending on the type of role you go for, GRC is obviously where I work. So I would say it's important to know and understand about that, because it gives you a purpose as to why you're doing what you're doing. Why are we implementing this control? Oh, it's to reduce that risk. Okay, great. So having knowledge of frameworks and guidelines and standards and just a little bit of law for one side, I think is really important for when you're starting out, for you to understand general technology. And then, everything about businesses and how they operate is so different between business to business. So you learn that from on-hands job experiences. But there's so many like networking events, webinars. There's so many like free online websites that you can use, and they have like virtual labs and stuff like that. So I would say there's no right or wrong answer. It depends on what interests you. But if you focus on what interests you first as a student, you will naturally kind of find more your path, whether that be a SOC analyst, whether that be a penetration tester, whether that be an auditor, whether that be a business and legal representative. So general tech, standards and frameworks, and free online training.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Hi, so why do you think teenagers should choose to go into technology, especially cybersecurity?
Oh, question. I like these questions. There's so many opportunities. I have flown across the world with technology with my job. There's literally nothing that you can't end up doing with technology. It's everywhere, right? We're here right now communicating via technology. We have mobile phones, we have iPads, it's everywhere. And it's such an important thing. We're seeing more and more on the news about, this company, that company that have experienced some form of compromise. And so, even if you are working in a business, any job will have some form of technology now. The days of carrier pigeons and messages in a bottle are long gone. It is technology. So I think students that are pursuing that route are really just going to be at the forefront of those changes, and you're the next future leaders that are going to be driving those enhancements. And I think it's just a really exciting opportunity. So that's why I pursue it, because it's where the world is going to.
So how would you suggest someone starts technology? If they go to uni and study a specific course, should they do an apprenticeship? Kind of, what do you suggest?
Oh, I might get in trouble here. So I personally went to university, so I followed a very typical path. However, a number of people I work with didn't, and they are just as successful as I am. Again, I think it really depends on how you are as a person, how you learn. If you're going into a real specialist topic like forensics, what I did, it really does bode well for you to study it. But if you're going to do something like a SOC analyst or penetration testing, the best way really to learn is on the job. Get a strong mentor, get a job, get an apprenticeship. Apprenticeships are incredible. They are so valuable because you're learning how a business actually operates. Like I said, when I came out of university, I was like, what do I do now? Like, how do I start a job? How do I work? So having an apprenticeship scheme, it kind of gives you that in that door to kind of go, oh, there's this. Oh, that's good. So having gone through university, I would personally say apprenticeships are second to none. They really do give you that in job experience. Most of the qualifications, especially for security and technology, that you get are post education, because they're also specialists to teach you specific skills, whereas I found in my experience education was quite a lot in one. It's kind of a broader skill set, but to really go into your niches is more on the job experiences with specific courses. Hopefully that didn't get me in too much trouble.
Thank you.
Sorry, just following on from that point, wouldn't you agree though, Christina, that the first step would be to study GCSE computer science as an option, and even
100%, yeah,
doing that at Framlingham College would be the best choice you could possibly make, I think. Yeah,
best choice, no other options.
But I think you probably, just from following on from what you said, the learning something like cybersecurity, because it's so fast moving, it's evolving all the time and changing, cyber criminals, etc. And it's about keeping one step ahead of those. So in such a fast moving industry, the education that you'll get at university can't possibly keep up with that kind of, it's not even cutting edge, it's sort of bleeding edge technology.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the cyber suites I learned at university are now deprecated. I think I learned about MD5 hashes, which I don't think is even taught anymore. So it's a good point in time, and it's a good reference, but as and when you go through, like I said, your on-the-job experience is going to teach you so much about, like I said, keeping up with the trends. A lot more, but education is a great foundation, a great starter for you to learn a thing. I mean, I learned law and went, nope, but I learned mobile computing and was like, oh, that sounds good, so it just gives you a little bit of everything. It does give you a little bit of everything. So
yeah, I think
Framlingham College,
yes.
GCSEs.
Great starting point. Yeah, and that's it in education. Yeah, we really do try and give you a flavour of everything, because technology is such a, I mean, there are so many jobs. Security is one area, but there are endless jobs within technology. So let's go back.
So what led you to actually pick cybersecurity in the first place?
Oh gosh, I was hoping you wouldn't ask this one. I love CSI, and I was obsessed with CSI, but only the Florida one, not the Miami, not the New York one. Sorry, but only the Miami one. I was absolutely obsessed with it. So my first car was named after one of the characters, and like I said, when I was doing my selection for my A levels and my GCSEs, I was kind of like, well, what do I like and what am I good at? And that's what led me down to forensic computing. Like I said, with the cybersecurity job, it was very much, I had really strong mentors. I had really strong leaders that identified the talent in me and went, what are you doing over there? Get over here, So it kind of, I guess, cybersecurity as a job kind of picked me without me kind of going, I definitely want to go do cyber. And now I'm in cyber. I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do cyber. So I guess I picked forensics, and it naturally kind of lent itself into people identifying that that's where I needed to be. So strong mentorship, building the relationships, all of that stuff kind of brought it over to cyber. But to keep me staying, yeah, it's just a really exciting topic.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
I just want to ask, what are some achievements you had in your career that you're really proud of that just stand out?
Gosh, okay. So my very first job, I was selected in the top 1% as a hype, which meant that I was on a fast track program, which probably led to why I am where I am now. So I probably just because I was chatty and friendly with someone, as well as a mixture of skills. So I was really, really proud of that. I was on a 1-year program that I basically was buddied up with a senior vice president at the organization and just learned from them from a year, learned everything that I could possibly do. So that was a pretty proud achievement. I think winning awards, I mean, winning contracts, some of the big customers that we did, some of them I can't say, but some of them were really, really exciting, and being part of that and delivering that, and sitting there at the end and going, wow, guys, we absolutely smashed that. Like, what a great deliverable. The customer was so happy. Winning the Wibby Award, setting up initiatives in an organization and people actually taking it seriously. One of the challenges I faced right at the start was people going, oh, that's cute, that's nice, nice idea. And then when I was sat in these boardrooms and I was a director, they were very much like, okay, yeah, that's a great idea. Like when I actually had the opportunity to present some of the information. So yeah, I think setting up women in cyber, setting up, kind of a junior consultants and getting them certified. I mean, I kind of just take pride in everyone else succeeding mainly, but winning awards, top 1% of the organization, probably the two I can think of off the top of my head.
Thank you.
No worries.
What changes do you see do you see tech bring about in the future, and what part does cybersecurity play?
Oh, what changes do I see? We're kind of seeing them now. Seeing a lot of old archaic systems going. I think there's a lot more AI personally. That's where I see a lot of kind of organizations trying to move towards. I think we'll be a little bit more fluid in our approach. Previously, technology was a very, not rigid, but a very structured, probably a better way of doing it, a structured approach. And, even like software development, they had this waterfall model that everybody followed. And it was like, right, we're doing development, then we're going to do testing, then we're going to do pre-production, then we're going to do deployment. And the introduction of something like Agile means that it's just continually going and continue doing, and you just check as you go. So I'm seeing a lot more shifts in pace. I think that's probably the best way. And cybersecurity, part that we play, wherever the technology is, we've got to be 4 steps ahead. So if that technology is coming in, cybersecurity have got to be, okay, we know that's coming in. How can we make sure that it's secure? How can we protect ourselves and our customers? One of the things that I think often is forgotten, especially in cyber, is that we do all this wonderful work in an office for customers and for big businesses, and then we go home and we forget everything that's been done and we forget it ourselves. So I think one of the things that, as technology is evolving, we are introducing more IoT devices at home. Most people have got a Ring doorbell. Most people have got CCTV that's connected to a centralized system, and I think we consult on businesses, but we don't necessarily, as cybersecurity, as much consult on home life. How is it? How do you set up a router? How do you make sure that it's secure? How do you change the default password? How do you make sure that you don't have all these random devices connecting to it? How do you, lock down your own home and personal life, your mobile phones that you then walk into a building with in an office? So I think some of the changes in technology, AI, automation, some kind of quick pace to cybersecurity, trying to stay ahead of that, which is always our biggest challenge.
Thank you.
One other thing, this might be a difficult question to ask, but are there any things that have gone wrong, particularly in cybersecurity for you?
Yes.
that you want to admit to, or tell us about it. And the question is, how do you learn from that and recover from that?
Yeah, so I think we are our own worst enemy sometimes. Quite often with cyber, there's a common phrase, oh, it's the people, and it's like, well, actually, people only fail if the processes are not right or if the technology is not there to support them. So some of the things I can generalize that we've seen that have gone wrong have been just general data. People have done upgrades and not consulted, a wider workforce to go, hey guys, you can't do that because it's going to be A, incompatible, or B, we know that that's an leave it where it is and we'll get you on to a next new secure thing, or it's going to turn off all of these controls. We had a company recently that was subject to a ransomware attack. So they were compromised, all their data was encrypted, and they didn't know what to do or how to handle that situation. So they were like, oh, well, we'll just pay them and get all our data back. Obviously paid the ransom, never got the data back. So that's something that can go wrong, and it's that lack of transparency, because obviously we can have the best intent and the best will in the world, but if our processes, procedures and technology and the controls around that are not in place, things can go wrong. Humans, especially in times of stress and panic, make irrational decisions if they're not really well supported and trained and educated. And with cyber being so vast, it is also we are constantly trying to get good resources into the sector. So quite often there are a couple that slip through the net. So for that example, we help the organisation understand, what went wrong, why did it go wrong, and what can we do to make sure it doesn't happen in future. And if it does, if all the best will in the world, if it does happen in future, how do you respond? And it's not like a headless chicken. It's you follow this process, you follow this procedure, and you don't pay. Or unless there's a risk of loss of life, of course. So yeah, I think that's pretty common. We're normally, our biggest challenge is we're normally too late. We always try with the best will in the world to be there, implement the controls, train people, provide awareness of just what to do, or if you don't know what to do, to be able to reach and connect. But yeah, our biggest challenges that we often face is we're normally at the point when it's too late when we're engaged.
absolutely. Yeah, that's really interesting because it can't always go right, and obviously the whole point is trying to stay ahead of it. And,
yeah, definitely. I mean, the medias are great at the moment. Like we're seeing a lot of increased awareness just from the media, to go, I mean, you see it every day, this company's breached, this company's breached, this is how you do this. This is what you're meant to do to protect yourself. So whilst the media, they are great at kind of providing more visibility into the sector. They really are.
So that's the last question from me, I promise.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, keep asking.
So why do you think it's important to close the gender gap in technology in general?
Great question. Love this question. It's so important. It really is. I mean, I think just our different ways of thinking, like quite typically, that we think of risk in different ways. We take, different methods of approach in both age and gender. Being young, I'm quite kind of risk averse. I'm not as risk averse, I think, as some of the colleagues that are a little bit more experienced because they have potentially seen a lot more times where it's gone wrong. Whereas I'm just like, don't worry about it, it's fine. And that's very. We see quite a lot of that between the gender differences as well. Women typically are a little bit more risk averse, and they kind of go, hey guys, we really need to think of this. Like we really need to implement this and this. Whereas typically the males are a little bit more like me, where they're like, hey, no, that's fine, don't worry about it. We'll figure it after. And I think we just have a different way of working. We're probably a little bit more methodical, and a little bit more, as women, this is probably a little bit more methodical and a little bit more thought-provoking. And we're also not afraid to challenge the status quo. We're also not, we're the days of sitting there in a boardroom and smiling and tilting our head are long gone. We will sit there and go, actually, no, that's not quite right. And this is why it's not quite right. It might just be the argumentative nature some of us have. But I think the gender gap is so important to close, but more to bring more women into technology. I think there's always a perceived stigma that we can't be technical or we can't be leaders or we can't command a room. And I challenge anyone to try and say that to me, because I absolutely can be technical. I can command a room and I can lead. And I think that's a really important thing, that we start bringing more women in and start breaking down these stigmas.
Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, thank you. Just to follow on it, how do you think we can actually start to close it? What sort of things do you think will encourage more women to come into the industry?
I think leaders like myself, in these types of roles, being really transparent about what we do, about what our days are like, about how some of the challenges we face, but also some of the successes that we get. I think we really, as experts and leaders within the industry, really owe it to the next generation to tell our stories and to be like, hey, this is what happened to me, this is how it happened, and this is the path that you can also go if you really want to. And I think that's how we're going to lead and inspire the next generation, is to tell them about what we do and not just squirrel away and go, oh no, nobody wants to hear about that, nobody wants to talk about me or cyber. Absolutely not. No, we need to be at the front and saying, hey, students, pupils, this is what you can achieve. This is all the places you can go. This is all the wonderful projects you can get involved with, and it doesn't matter what your background is, where you come from, get in, there's no preconceived stigma anymore within the industry when you're in. I mean, and it's so cheesy to say, but it's such a small industry that everybody kind of really knows or speaks to everyone, and if you don't know the answer to something, you can just throw it out into the atmosphere and someone will pick it up and they'll go, hey, I know the answer to your question. So I think really starting to enhance that community with just more diverse people is always welcome. So come on, students, go into cyber.
I see, exactly. Yes. So that is a strong message to all our students. There's so many opportunities available in the cyber security area as well, and now there is no real reason why it's not open to both genders and to a whole diverse people with different characteristics, etc. That there is actually no rhyme or reason why anybody should feel that they're barred from the industry. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, open to all.
Yeah. I think that's all of our questions today. So I just want to say thank you very much, Christina, for coming to join us. It's some really interesting to hear about your career and what you do. And I think there's some really inspirational messages that you've put across to our students here and across to the students that are watching. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate it. And all the best with your studies and exams. And hopefully I'll see you in a couple of years when you need a job.
That's it. Yeah. So folks, you've got a contact there, very
That's
valuable
it.
contact. And just as this is our last kind of, this is the last tech talk in our first kind of series. We hopefully have some more later in the year. I just wanted to also thank all of the previous guest speakers that we've had. So Beverly Clark, Jennifer King, Dominica Schott, Jordan Domin Goddard, and of course Christina Stevenson today. When I was putting these talks together, something that I'm acutely aware of as a computer science teacher is the imbalance of male and female numbers within the subject that I teach, and it has been like that for a long time. Hopefully we are seeing that change, but it's like any kind of positive change in the world. It's not as quick as it could be or should be. So I really wanted to put together a series of talks that highlighted opportunities for everybody, but really had a focus on women in leadership roles within the industry. So thank you to all the women that have taken part. I also want to say thank you to Mel and Tom, who've done loads of work behind the scenes. Mel from a marketing point of view, and Tom doing all the technical stuff, putting all this together. So he's been very busy, and as I often do, is just come up with these ideas and start planning them, and then hopefully rely on some people to actually make it all work. But so thanks to both of them as well, particularly. And also wanted to mention Kay Sawbridge, who put me in touch with you, Christina. As I sort of reached out to try and put these talks together, reached out to various contacts I had on LinkedIn, and Kay was one of those. And she said perhaps she works in education, and said perhaps I'm not the best person, but I know somebody that's really leading out there. So would you say she was a kind of inspiration to you,
huge,
your
yeah.
former teacher?
I absolutely owe everything to being in this industry down to, well, Miss Sawbridge. I can't call her Kay. Miss Sawbridge. She was my IT teacher all the way through kind of my whole high school, really. If anything, actually, she got me an extra GCSE because I didn't originally pick IT as a subject, and she was like, you need to get over here and do this. And we've kept in contact since. She's an incredible teacher, and I would definitely recommend students as well, if you have a good relationship with your teacher, like, nurture that, because it definitely does help as you're going through to go, what was that module that you sent me ages ago? How did I do it again? Can you help me out? So yeah, no, I definitely, if it always takes other people. If Kay hadn't have grabbed me and gone get into IT, I who knows where I'd have been. Yeah, so I owe quite a lot to Kay, or Miss Sawbridge.
Yeah. So I mean, that's brilliant that she put me in touch with you as well, because and the reason we kind of put these talks together is as a kind of middle-aged, middle-class male, I'm perhaps not the natural role model for all of our students. Hopefully, sort of an interest in the topic that I can pass on to them. So, but I think, as you're saying as well, in the ways that we can encourage more women to get into the industry is just to tell these stories. So to highlight the stories of particularly 5 women in very much different areas in technology has been a really good. It's been a very interesting and very kind of fruitful, hopefully, month of very inspirational talks. So thank you to everybody that's taken part, and thank you, Christina, today for your input.
No, thanks, Jamie. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and all the students, and like I say, long may it continue.
Thank you. And I shouldn't forget, thank you to all the students, those here today, and all the others that have taken part as well. There are too many to mention, but they've all done a cracking job as well. So that's it, and thank you very much, Christina.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.